Hello everybody, and welcome to Money's Worth. Today we look at the Diablo 4 expansion Vessel of Hatred, with a base price of €39.99. I played the expansion for 40 hours. I have not made a review of 1.0 of Diablo 4, but I played it a fair amount. Let's take a look at the gameplay and content, and then I will give my opinion of the game. I'm going to keep the review pretty simple, since I don't want to make the video too long and too complicated. Let's go. Vessel of Hatred is the first expansion of Diablo 4. It launched at the same time as Season 6. Vessel of Hatred introduces the new class Spiritborn. So I set out to play the new class for 40 hours to see if it is any fun. The Spiritborn draws power from 4 different animal spirits: the jaguar, eagle, gorilla, and centipede. Generally, the Spiritborn is a highly mobile melee class that uses vigor as resource. The Spiritborn utilizes block and resolve to reduce damage and can generate high amounts of barrier for extra defense. The Spiritborn have the Spirit Hall as a class mechanic where you can pick a main and secondary spirit for either more offensive or defensive capabilities. I made my own build as I leveled up to level 60 and got to Torment 1, and after that I found a guide, since I wanted to see as much content as possible and not use all of my time making my own endgame viable build. As with the new expansion, we can level up to level 60 and therefore gain 10 extra skill points to place on the skill tree. We also get 2 extra points from the new zone. When you hit level 60, you start gaining Paragon levels, and every level grants you a point that you can place on the Paragon board. When you hit a gate tile, you can choose and add a new Paragon board. You can rotate the new board as you like to make your desired setup. Every board has a legendary power and a glyph slot. The glyphs are found while doing endgame content and can be leveled in the pit. Glyphs gain more power if you meet the requirements stated on them, and rare glyphs get a bigger radius at level 15 and turns legendary at level 46, making them even more powerful. Gearing at the start of leveling is primary magic and rare items, but quite early on you will find legendary items with aspect on them. Aspects greatly increase your offensive and defensive capabilities and are mandatory for going further into the game. If you find a good aspect on a bad item, you can salvage the item, and the aspect will be stored in your Codex of Power. The Codex of Power will have the highest rolled aspect stored and can be enchanted on gear, so if you find a perfectly rolled aspect on a bad piece of gear, don't worry, you can use it as much as you want. When you find a nice piece of gear with the stats you want, you can go to the blacksmith and craft 2 extra stats on them with tempering. Tempering is a way to specialize an item to your build. You will find recipes for different temperings, the best being legendary recipes. These drop just by playing the game, and they are permanent, so you only have to find them once. When you have tempered your gear, you can mastercraft it. Unique items cannot be tempered, so you can mastercraft them straight away. Mastercrafting increases affixes on gear, and every 4 level it picks a random affix to increase by 25%. You can mastercraft endgame gear up to 12 times, and you can reset them if you don't get your desired outcome. The higher the rank, the more it costs to mastercraft, so resetting an item can be costful to get it back to high rank. Because of the high cost of mastercrafting, you have to do a lot of content to get materials to perfect your items. So it's not just a little farming and a few clicks and you're done. Runes have also been added to the game, and they can be socketed into gear instead of gems. There are 2 types of runes: Runes of Ritual and Runes of Invocation. Runes of Ritual generate offering if you fulfill the criteria. Looking at the Moni rune, it generates 25 offering if you cast a skill after moving. Runes of Invocation needs a certain amount of offering to activate. Looking at the Gar rune, it uses 25 offering to give you a buff, increasing critical strike chance. So these put together can be used to give you a high amount of increased critical chance. This system can generate very powerful offensive, defensive, and utility effects. Vessel of Hatred also introduces 4 mercenaries. You can have 1 main mercenary by your side while playing solo, and they each have a skill tree providing support such as buffs, debuffs, and crowd control. You also have a mercenary as reinforcement, choosing 1 skill from their tree to be used when a certain criteria is met. You can, for example, choose to have the reinforcement cast a skill at the same time as you cast a skill. The gameplay is full of ways to make your own build and have a decent amount of depth to it. Let's take a look at how much content Vessel of Hatred has to offer. If you like my review, consider hitting that subscribe button to get notified of my new videos. Thank you. Vessel of Hatred adds a new chapter to the campaign, starting off where we left. I will not talk about the story to not spoil it for anyone wanting to experience it for themselves. The campaign took a few hours to get through, and since the game's difficulty scale with levels and chosen difficulty, you can start off with the campaign from level 1 if you have completed the other campaign on an earlier character. To unlock Torment difficulties after hitting level 60, you have to go into the pit. The pit is a timed dungeon where you have to kill enough monsters to fill the bar on the right and then kill a boss within 15 minutes. When you complete the pit, you can upgrade your glyphs, and you have 4 tries every time you complete the pit. The closer the pit tier is to the glyph level, the lower the odds are of upgrading it. Before you start the pit, you choose the Artificer's tier. There are 5 tiers between each difficulty up to Torment 1, and after that there are 15 tiers between Torments. To unlock Torment difficulties, you have to complete the tier matching the Torment difficulty. So to unlock Torment 1, you have to complete tier 20. Normal dungeons are 5-minute dungeons with 2 to 3 objectives. The Nightmare dungeon is an upgraded version with an upside and a downside to make it more difficult and more rewarding. Dungeons and Nightmare dungeons scale with Torment difficulties. The Tree of Whisper is a great way to get more gear and materials while doing other stuff around the world. On the map there are objectives, or whispers as they are called. You have to complete these whispers to get Grim Favors. When you have 10, you can return to the tree and pick one of 3 caches. Whispers can be simple things as just killing a certain amount of monsters in a zone, or finding a corpse and killing the elite spawning from it. Or it can be a dungeon or a boss encounter. Bossing is the best way to target farm uniques. While doing all other content in the game, you get materials to spawn bosses. These bosses have a set table of unique drops, and can rarely drop mythic uniques. Before you get good gear, bosses can be very tough, but might be necessary to get that build enabling unique. There are 7 bosses, but Uber Lilith didn't seem to drop anything for me, so no need to farm her. Realm Walkers are this season's new content. They spawn quite often around the world. They consist of 2 parts. In the first part, you have to follow the Realm Walker and kill the minions it spawns, and then kill it so you can go into the portal. The second part is a dungeon you have to complete. Halfway through, you can sacrifice materials to get a certain kind of Seething Opal. Seething Opals gives you a buff for half an hour that gives you 15% increased experience, and monsters will occasionally drop extra loot depending on what opal you use. So getting these opals seems mandatory since they give so much extra experience. Infernal Hes are wave-based arena encounters with 6, 8 or 10 waves. You slay monsters to draw out Aether. When you fill the bar on the right, different objectives spawn in the top, bottom, left or right part of the arena. When you complete the objectives, you will gain Aether. At the end of every wave, you pick between 3 modifiers to the next wave or the rest of the run. You can, for example, increase elite damage to gain more Aether. After the last wave, you have to do a boss encounter, and if you complete it, you get to pick how to spend your Aether. You can use 200 points on equipment, and you can then use the rest of the Aether to either gain crafting materials or gold. The Undercity is a multi-layered dungeon where you have to beat the timer while getting as much attunement as possible to get the reward counter to 4. You can slay certain monsters marked on the map to increase your timer. The Undercity can be modified to be harder with tributes, and you can bargain to modify the drops you get at the end. The Dark Citadel is a gauntlet/puzzle encounter, where you have to play in a group and figure out the mechanics of the dungeon while battling monsters to complete it. The Dark Citadel have 3 wings with different mechanics in each. You cannot complete the Dark Citadel alone, since some mechanics require players to stand in different places at once. Helltides are timed events around the world. Hell will rise in the entire zone and extra monsters will spawn. Monsters will drop cinders that you can use to open loot boxes around the hell-infested zone. Blizzard has added a lot of things to the game since 1.0. Let's get into my ratings of Vessel of Hatred. Diablo 4 is a pleasure to play. Getting that juicy drop or killing a boss solo for the first time is as always a dopamine fix. The movement and skills are slick, and I only encountered a small amount of bugs, mostly due to lag. I really enjoy Path of Exile and Last Epoch, but Diablo 4 just feels a bit more polished when you look at how movement and skills feel. The only thing I miss is some more customization of the abilities on the skill tree instead of on the items. I feel some aspects could be made into passive skills on the tree, but as for an ARPG, Diablo 4 feels great to play. I rate the gameplay a 5 out of 5. There are a lot of things to do in Vessel of Hatred, and the way it is put together, you kinda have to do a little bit of every content to get somewhere. Bossing materials drop from different content, and crafting materials also drop from certain content. The only thing I don't like is that there are no more Torment difficulties. When you have enough gear for a strong build, the only thing you can do is push the pit, and Torment 4 content is like squashing ants under a boot. But I didn't get to that point before my 40 hours were up, so there is a great amount of content to do. I rate the content a 5 out of 5. Vessel of Hatred is in the category of mid-priced games at €39.99. The game delivers great gameplay and a lot of content. Diablo 4 lacked content when it first came out, but I think Blizzard have made a comeback with all the content they have added since. I had fun for 40 hours, leveling and gearing my Spiritborn. I liked it so much that I played a few more hours while writing my review. If Blizzard keeps it up, Diablo 4 will be on my list of games to look to when new content hits. I rate the money's worth a 5 out of 5. I hope you found out if Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred could be your money's worth. You can look through my other videos to see if you can find games that will be your money's worth. Thank you for watching, see you in the next video.